The Great Hall of the Galactic Council was louder than usual. Thousands of alien voices filled the massive chamber. Blue-skinned diplomats argued with machine-like traitors. Tall armored warriors from the Craven Dominion stood near glowing maps of star systems. Floating drones carried data screens from one senator to another. It looked like every normal council meeting, until the alarm started. A deep red light suddenly flashed across the ceiling. Warning, priority alert. The sound echoed through the giant chamber. At once, the room fell silent. Every head turned toward the center doors as they slowly opened. A messenger rushed inside. His breathing was heavy. His silver uniform was burned at the edges, and fear covered his face. Even the strongest council guards looked nervous. The messenger dropped to one knee before the High Council. "We received an emergency transmission from the Sol System," he said weakly. Murmurs spread across the room. Sol System. Earth. A few younger alien senators rolled their eyes immediately. Humans again. To most of the galaxy, humanity was still new, inexperienced, and soft. Humans traded food, medicine, and technology with other races, but they rarely showed military power. Most species believed Earth was harmless. The messenger swallowed hard before speaking again. "Earth has been attacked." The chamber exploded with noise. Some senators laughed. Others looked confused. A reptilian general from the Korth Empire leaned back in his chair and smiled. "Humans started a war already?" he mocked. Another senator laughed loudly. Maybe pirates stole one of their trade ships. But the messenger did not laugh. His hands trembled badly. The attack came from the Vorlax Empire. That single sentence changed everything. The laughter died instantly. The room became completely silent. Even the floating drones stopped moving. At the center of the chamber, the High Chancellor slowly stood from his throne. "Repeat that," he said carefully. The messenger looked around the room. The Vorlax Empire launched a full military assault on Earth colonies near Jupiter Station. A giant hologram appeared above the chamber. The image showed burning stations drifting through space. Human rescue ships moved between broken structures while fire and smoke filled the darkness around Jupiter's moon colonies. Thousands were dead, maybe more. Several council members stared in shock. The Vorlax Empire was not some small pirate group. They were one of the most feared military powers in the galaxy. For over 2 centuries, the Vorlax conquered worlds without mercy. Entire civilizations disappeared after refusing to obey them. But attacking Earth made no sense. Humanity had done nothing to provoke them. "Why?" someone whispered. The messenger activated another recording. A giant armored figure appeared in the hologram. The Vorlax warlord stood proudly on the bridge of his flagship. His cold, yellow eyes stared directly into the camera. "This is a message to the species called humanity," the warlord announced. "Your expansion near Vorlax territory ends today. Kneel before the Empire, or Earth itself will burn." The recording ended. Fear spread quietly across the chamber. Not because of the threat, because of what might happen next. An elderly senator from the ancient Valoran species slowly lowered his head. "This is bad," he whispered. A younger senator beside him frowned. "They're only humans," she replied. "What can they possibly do against the Vorlax?" The old senator did not answer immediately. His eyes stayed fixed on the burning hologram of Jupiter Station. Finally, he spoke softly. "Young races do not remember the old stories." Before anyone could ask him what he meant, another signal entered the chamber. The messenger looked surprised. "We are now receiving Earth's official response." Every eye in the room turned toward the hologram. The council expected anger, threats, panic, begging. Instead, the screen stayed dark for several seconds. Then a human woman appeared. She wore a black military uniform with no medals and no decorations. Her face showed no fear, no sadness, no rage, only calm silence. Behind her stood several human officers. None of them spoke. The woman looked directly into the camera. "This is Admiral Sophia Hale of Earth Defense Command." The entire chamber listened carefully. The Admiral's voice remained cold and steady. "Your message has been received." That was all. The transmission ended immediately. No threats, no demands, no emotional speech. Just 5 simple words. For a moment, nobody inside the council chamber moved. Then confusion spread everywhere. "That's it?" one senator asked. Another laughed nervously. "Maybe humans are surrendering already." But the older races were not laughing. The Valoran senator looked pale. Across the chamber, another ancient diplomat quietly stood from his chair. "I remember this silence," he whispered. The High Chancellor turned toward him quickly. "What are you talking about?" The diplomat hesitated. "There were stories long ago, before humanity joined the council, before Earth became peaceful." The room listened carefully now. The diplomat's voice grew weaker. "There was once a war near the Outer Rim. Entire fleets vanished overnight. Military worlds disappeared without warning." A nervous senator interrupted him. "What does that have to do with humans?" The old diplomat looked directly at him. "The survivors blamed humanity." Silence filled the room again. "That's impossible," someone said. "Humans weren't even spacefaring back then." The diplomat slowly shook his head. "That is what humanity wanted everyone to believe." Far away from the council chamber, deep beneath Earth's Atlantic Ocean, massive steel doors slowly opened for the first time in centuries. Dark water rushed through ancient military tunnels. Hidden lights activated one by one inside giant underground chambers. Thousands of machines suddenly came alive. Rows of massive warships rested beneath the ocean floor like sleeping monsters. Cold, artificial voices echoed through the darkness. Defense protocol awakened. Planetary shield systems online. Titan fleet activation confirmed. Across Earth, secret stations buried under mountains, deserts, and frozen ice fields began waking up. Old soldiers received encrypted messages. Human fleets hidden near distant moons quietly powered their engines. The peaceful world the galaxy thought it understood was changing, and nobody outside Earth truly knew what humanity had been hiding all these years. Back inside the Galactic Council chamber, fear continued spreading. Then the chamber doors opened again. Another messenger entered. But this time he looked terrified. "What happened?" the Chancellor demanded. The messenger struggled to breathe. "A Vorlax patrol fleet near Saturn." He paused. "It disappeared." Confused whispers spread instantly. "What do you mean by disappeared? No distress signal? No survivors?" The messenger slowly shook his head. "Nothing remains." The chamber became silent once more. Then, from the back of the room, the old Valoran senator quietly whispered words that made every heart grow cold. "Oh no!" He stared at the hologram of Earth. "The humans are awake." The news spread across the galaxy within hours. A full Vorlax patrol fleet had vanished near Saturn. No wreckage, no escape pods, no final messages. One moment the fleet existed. The next moment it was gone. Inside the Galactic Council, fear slowly replaced confusion. The younger races still refused to believe humanity could destroy an entire Vorlax fleet so easily. "It must have been an accident," one senator argued. "Maybe a star collapse." But deep down, nobody truly believed that. The Vorlax Empire did not believe it either. Far inside the black fortress world of Vorlix Prime, Supreme Warlord Karvek stood before a massive hologram map. His yellow eyes burned with anger. Around him, dozens of Vorlax commanders waited nervously. "The patrol fleet near Saturn is gone," one officer reported carefully. "We lost all contact 6 hours ago." Karvek slammed his metal fist against the command table. "Impossible. The humans are weak." Another commander stepped forward slowly. "My lord, perhaps we underestimated them." Karvek's eyes narrowed immediately. "You dare question Vorlax superiority?" The commander lowered his head quickly. "No, my lord." But fear remained in the room, because every Vorlax officer could feel it. Something was wrong, very wrong. Meanwhile, far away in the Sol system, Earth had become completely different. The peaceful blue planet now moved with cold purpose. Massive warships rose silently from hidden ocean bases. Giant metal doors opened beneath mountains. Secret shipyards buried under the moon activated for the first time in hundreds of years. Human civilians watched nervously as military fleets filled Earth's skies. Many had never even known these fleets existed. Children stared from apartment windows as enormous black warships passed overhead like moving cities. News channels everywhere repeated the same message. Remain calm. But fear still spread. At Earth Defense Command, Admiral Sophia Hale stood inside a giant underground control room. Hundreds of officers worked around glowing screens. A young lieutenant approached her carefully. "Admiral, the outer defense stations are fully operational." Sophia nodded once. "What about the Titan fleet?" The lieutenant hesitated. "They're requesting permission to deploy." For the first time, emotion crossed Sophia's face. Not fear, regret. She looked toward the giant hologram of Earth floating in the center of the room. "For 200 years, she said quietly, "we prayed those ships would never fly again." The lieutenant stayed silent. Everyone in the room understood what that meant. Humanity had hidden these weapons for a reason, because they were terrifying. Far above Mars, hidden inside an asteroid belt, enormous shadows slowly moved through darkness. The Titan fleet, ancient human battleships longer than entire cities. Their black armor carried scars from wars nobody in the galaxy remembered. As their engines activated, nearby asteroids shook violently. Cold AI voices echoed through the ships. Combat systems online. Primary weapons active. Awaiting target designation. Back at the Galactic Council, emergency meetings continued without rest. Old alien races looked more nervous with every passing hour. The younger species finally noticed. A senator from the Tauran Republic stood angrily. "Someone explain this," she shouted. "Why are the elder races afraid of humanity?" Silence filled the chamber again. Finally, an ancient council member named Oryx slowly stood. His species had existed long before most civilizations even discovered space travel, and his face now looked filled with old memories. "You want the truth?" Oryx asked softly. The chamber listened carefully. Long ago, humanity was different. They were not peaceful traders. They were warriors. Several senators exchanged uneasy looks. Oryx continued. "There was once a galactic conflict called the Ash Wars. At the mention of the name, older races lowered their heads. Even speaking about the Ash Wars felt dangerous. Oryx's voice became quieter. Entire systems burned during that war. Empires destroyed planets just to win territory. What did humans do?" someone whispered. Oryx looked toward Earth's hologram. "They ended the war." The chamber remained silent. "How?" another senator asked. Oryx answered slowly. "By destroying every fleet that refused peace." Fear spread across the room. "But humans disappeared afterward," a senator argued. "They became peaceful." "Yes," Oryx replied, "because humanity saw what war turned them into." Far away, inside Vorlak's territory, another disaster struck. A massive military convoy traveling toward Earth suddenly lost communication. 30 warships vanished, then 40 more. One survivor finally escaped back to Vorlak's Prime. His damaged ship crashed directly into the military docks. Emergency crews rushed inside. The surviving captain stumbled out covered in blood. His entire body shook with terror. Karvek himself arrived moments later. "What happened?" the warlord demanded. The captain could barely speak. "They came from nowhere. Human ships black as space itself." Karvek growled angrily. "How many?" The captain stared at him with wide eyes. "Only 3. The room became silent. 3 ships destroyed your entire convoy?" Karvek asked coldly. The captain nodded weakly. "They moved like ghosts. No warnings. No communication. They disabled our weapons before we could fire." Karvek's face twisted with rage. But deep inside, even he felt the first touch of fear. Humans should not have this kind of power. Not after centuries of acting weak. Back on Earth, Captain Elias Ward finally entered the story. He stood aboard the battleship Nightfall, one of the oldest Titan-class warships ever built. Unlike most human officers, Elias looked calm. Too calm. The bridge crew worked silently around him. Outside the giant front window, hundreds of human warships waited in formation. A young officer approached carefully. "Captain, Earth Command has approved deployment." Elias looked toward the stars. For several seconds, he said nothing. Then he quietly asked, "How many civilians died at Jupiter Station?" "Over 12,000 confirmed." The bridge fell silent. Elias slowly closed his eyes. When he opened them again, all warmth was gone. "Send the order," he said. The officer swallowed nervously. "Yes, sir." Across the fleet, human ships suddenly powered forward together. The stars themselves seemed to shake. For the first time in centuries, humanity entered war. Meanwhile, inside the Galactic Council, new reports arrived every minute. Destroyed Vorlax fleets, missing supply stations, human fleets moving beyond soul space. Panic spread across the galaxy. Then, one final message reached the Council. A human transmission. Short, cold, terrifying. "This is only the beginning." The chamber became deathly silent. And for the first time in modern galactic history, the entire galaxy realized humanity was not the prey. Humanity was the predator. The galaxy changed in only 3 days. Trade routes became empty. Civilian ships avoided human space completely. Even pirate fleets disappeared from nearby systems. Fear moved faster than light. Every screen in every major world now showed the same terrifying reports. Vorlax fleets destroyed. Human warships are advancing. Entire military outposts have gone silent. But the strangest part was not the destruction. It was the silence. Humanity made no victory speeches, no celebrations, no threats. They moved forward like a cold storm. Inside the Galactic Council chamber, emergency meetings continued day and night. Nobody slept anymore. The massive hologram in the center of the room displayed red warning symbols across Vorlax territory. System after system had vanished from communication. The High Chancellor looked exhausted. "How many fleets has the Vorlax Empire lost?" he asked quietly. A nervous officer checked his datapad. 17 confirmed fleets, Chancellor. Murmurs spread instantly. 17 fleets, destroyed in less than 70 hours. Impossible. No empire in galactic history had ever moved this fast. An older senator slowly stood from his seat. "The humans are not fighting a normal war," he whispered. A younger commander turned angrily. "Then what are they doing?" The old senator answered without emotion. "They're erasing resistance." Far away, deep inside Vorlax territory, panic had begun. Military worlds, once filled with confidence, are now prepared for emergency evacuations. Factories worked without rest. Shipyards launched unfinished warships directly into combat. But none of it mattered. Human fleets appeared everywhere. Like shadows, like ghosts. At the edge of the Draxus system, a Vorlax defense station floated beside a frozen moon. Thousands of soldiers waited inside heavy defense bunkers. Massive cannons pointed toward open space. The station commander stood proudly on the control deck. "No human ship can survive our defenses," he declared. Then the radar officer froze. "Sir," the commander frowned. "What is it?" The officer looked pale. "Human fleet detected." "How many ships?" The officer swallowed slowly. "Only one." Confused laughter spread across the bridge. "One ship?" the commander mocked. "Humans are becoming desperate." Then the lights suddenly died. Darkness covered the station. Warning alarms exploded everywhere. Power failure. Shields offline. Weapons not responding. Panic filled the control room. The commander roared in anger. "How is this possible?" Before anyone answered, the giant front screen came alive again. A single black human warship floated outside the station. Long, silent, motionless, like death itself. Then a message appeared on every screen. "Surrender your weapons." The commander screamed immediately. "Fire everything." Nothing happened. Every system was dead. The human ship had shut down the entire station without firing a single shot. Moments later, human soldiers entered through the station corridors. Fast, silent, precise. The battle ended in 11 minutes. No civilians harmed. No unnecessary deaths. Only military targets were destroyed. Across the galaxy, stories like this repeated again and again, and fear kept growing. Meanwhile, aboard the human flagship Nightfall, Captain Elias Ward stood alone inside the observation deck. The stars moved slowly outside the giant window. Behind him, the ship remained quiet. Human crews rarely spoke during battle. They worked. A soft voice broke the silence. "Captain." Elias turned slightly. Admiral Sophia Hale entered the room through a hologram transmission. "You've reached the outer systems already," she said. Elias nodded once. "The Vorlax are collapsing faster than expected." Sophia did not smile. "That's what worries me." Elias understood immediately. Humanity remembered something the rest of the galaxy had forgotten. Desperate enemies became dangerous. "The Council?" Elias asked. Sophia sighed quietly. "They're searching old archives now." Elias looked away toward the stars again. "So they finally want the truth." For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then Sophia said softly, "Maybe they deserve to know." Deep beneath the Galactic Council building, ancient vault doors slowly opened for the first time in centuries. Dust covered the hidden archive chambers. Several elder races entered carefully. Among them was Auric, the ancient senator. A nervous young historian followed behind. "What exactly are we looking for?" she asked. Auric stopped before a giant metal container. "The reason humanity chose peace." The container opened slowly. Inside were old recordings from the Ash Wars. Forbidden recordings. The historian activated the first file. Instantly, horrifying images filled the room. Entire fleets are burning. Dead planets drifting through space. Human warships are moving through enemy lines without stopping. One recording showed a giant alien armada surrounding Earth long ago. Thousands of enemy ships are prepared to destroy humanity forever. Then the video changed. The enemy fleets suddenly exploded one after another. Not from missiles, not from bombs. Something invisible tore through space itself. The historian stared in horror. "What weapon is that?" Auric answered quietly. "We never discovered the full truth." Another recording appeared. A human commander stood before the galactic assembly from centuries ago. His face looked tired, broken. "We won the war," the commander said in the recording. "But if humanity continues this path, one day there will be nothing left in the galaxy." The recording ended. Silence filled the archive room. The historian looked toward Auric. "So humans hid their power because they feared themselves?" Auric slowly nodded. "Yes. Humanity became peaceful because they understood war better than anyone." Suddenly, alarms rang across the archive chamber. An emergency transmission appeared. The Vorlax outer defense line had fallen. Completely. Thousands of military ships were destroyed in under 1 hour. The humans were now moving directly toward Vorlax Prime itself. The capital world. Back aboard the Nightfall, Captain Elias received new orders. A young officer approached carefully. "Captain, Earth Command requests final assault authorization." The bridge crew became completely silent. Everyone understood what that meant. The war was entering its final stage. Elias stared at the hologram of the Vorlax capital. Millions of lives existed there. Civilians, families, children. Humanity never forgot innocent lives, even during war. Finally, Elias spoke. "Prepare surrender terms." The officer blinked in surprise. "Sir," Elias turned toward him. "We are not monsters." At that exact moment, deep inside Vorlax Prime, Supreme Warlord Karvek watched human fleets appear across his home system. For the first time in his life, the ruler of the Vorlax Empire felt fear. Real fear. Then a final human message arrived on every military screen across the capital world. A calm human voice echoed through the silence. "You attacked Earth." A pause followed. Then came the words that made the entire Vorlax Empire tremble. "Now humanity answers." The skies above Vorlax Prime had never looked so crowded. Thousands of Vorlax warships surrounded the capital planet like a giant wall of steel. Defense cannons covered every moon and station across the system. Minefields floated silently in deep space. The Vorlax Empire had gathered everything it had left. This was their final stand. Inside the Imperial Palace, Supreme Warlord Karvek stared at the giant battle screen before him. Human fleets continued entering the system. Slowly, calmly, without fear. Karvek clenched his fists tightly. "How many ships?" he demanded. A nervous officer answered immediately. 300 confirmed human warships, my lord." The room relaxed slightly. Only 300. The Vorlax still outnumbered them nearly 4-1. Karvek finally smiled. "Good. We crushed them here." But no one else in the command room smiled with him. Too many fleets had already disappeared. Too many commanders were dead. And every survivor told the same story. Humans did not fight like normal species. They fought like they already knew the outcome. Meanwhile, far outside the system, the human flagship Nightfall moved silently through darkness. Captain Elias Ward stood on the bridge with his hands behind his back. Around him, officers watched the giant hologram of Vorlax Prime. A young officer finally spoke. "Sir, the Vorlax are preparing full planetary defense." Elias nodded once. "Expected." Another officer looked nervous. "Our fleet is heavily outnumbered." Still, Elias showed no fear. He simply looked toward the stars ahead. Numbers stopped matching 3 days ago. The bridge became quiet again. Then Admiral Sophia Hale appeared through hologram transmission. "Captain," she said calmly, "the Galactic Council has requested communication." Elias frowned slightly. "Now?" "Yes." "They're afraid." A cold silence filled the bridge. Finally, Elias answered. "They should be." Moments later, the hologram of the Galactic Council appeared before him. The High Chancellor looked exhausted. Behind him, thousands of senators watched nervously. "Captain Ward," the Chancellor began carefully, "the Council requests restraint." Elias stared at him silently. The Chancellor continued. "The galaxy fears what humanity may do next." Elias finally spoke. "Where was this concern when Earth burned?" Nobody answered. The Chancellor lowered his head slightly. "You are right." A long silence followed. Then an older senator stepped forward. Auric, the ancient alien who remembered the Ash Wars. He looked directly at Elias. "Humanity once saved the galaxy from itself," Auric said softly. "Please do not become that nightmare again." For the first time, emotion crossed Elias's face. Pain, not anger. "Do you think we wanted this war?" Elias asked quietly. The council remained silent. "My people buried these weapons because we feared what they could do." He looked toward Vorlax Prime. "But the Vorlax attacked our home." The transmission ended. And deep inside the council chamber, fear only grew stronger. Back above Vorlax Prime, alarms suddenly exploded across the system. Human fleets had begun moving. The battle started instantly. Vorlax cannons fired massive beams across space. Explosions lit the darkness like burning stars. But human ships moved with terrifying precision. Every attack felt planned before it even happened. Human destroyers slipped between enemy formations with impossible speed. AI-controlled drones tore through Vorlax defenses. Entire battleships lost power before firing a single shot. Inside the Vorlax command center, panic spread rapidly. They're inside the defense grid. Sector 4 destroyed. Moon station lost. Karvek roared in fury. "Push them back." A commander turned toward him desperately. "We can't. They're disabling our systems remotely." Karvek slammed his fist into the command table again. "No species has this technology." Then suddenly, every screen in the room went black. The entire command center froze. Emergency lights flickered weakly. Confused voices filled the darkness. What happened? Power failure? No, this can't be. Far above the planet, a massive black object slowly emerged behind the human fleet. The Titan-class supercarrier Leviathan. It was so enormous that smaller ships looked tiny beside it. Across the galaxy, hidden observation stations watched in horror. The ship had not appeared on any sensor before now. It was like a ghost emerging from empty space. Then the Leviathan activated. A deep blue wave spread across the entire star system. In 1 second, every Vorlax military system died. Weapons offline. Shields gone. Engines dead. Thousands of warships became floating metal prisons instantly. The battle ended almost immediately. Inside the Imperial Palace, Karvek stared in disbelief. No, it's impossible. An officer looked toward him with pale skin. My lord, all military systems are disabled. Karvek slowly stepped backward. For the first time in his life, he understood the truth. Humanity could have destroyed the Vorlax Empire from the very beginning. They had simply chosen not to. A new transmission suddenly appeared on the giant screen. Captain Elias Ward stood calmly before them. Behind him, human officers waited silently. This is Captain Elias Ward of Earth Defense Command. His voice remained cold and steady. Your fleets are defeated. Your weapons are disabled. You have lost. Karvek's breathing grew heavy. You think humanity is won, he growled. You will rule over ashes. Elias shook his head slowly. We did not come to conquer your empire. Karvek looked confused. Then why come at all? Elias answered immediately. To make sure nobody attacks Earth again. Silence filled the palace. The words felt heavier than any threat. Karvek suddenly laughed bitterly. You humans hide your power for centuries. Why? For several seconds, Elias said nothing. Then he finally answered. Because we know exactly what happens when humans stop holding back. The transmission ended. Outside the palace windows, thousands of disabled Vorlax warships floated helplessly in silence. The strongest empire in the galaxy had fallen in less than 1 week. And the entire galaxy watched in horror. Back inside the Galactic Council chamber, nobody spoke anymore. No arguments. No politics. Only fear. A young senator looked toward Auric carefully. Is the war over? She whispered. Auric stared silently at the image of Earth's fleet surrounding Vorlix Prime. Then he gave the only honest answer possible. That depends, he said quietly, on whether humanity still remembers mercy. The fall of the Vorlax Empire changed the galaxy forever. For the first time in modern history, the strongest military power in known space had collapsed in less than a week. And humanity had done it almost effortlessly. News channels across hundreds of worlds repeated the same terrifying images. Disabled Vorlax fleets floating helplessly in space. Human warships are surrounding entire planets without firing a shot. The giant supercarrier Leviathan appears like a black shadow over the capital world. Fear spread everywhere. Civilian ships stopped traveling near human territory. Trade routes changed overnight. Even pirate groups sent public messages promising never to enter Earth space again. Across the galaxy, one sentence became famous. Do not provoke humanity. Inside the Galactic Council chamber, the atmosphere felt colder than ever before. Thousands of senators sat quietly in the dim light. Nobody argued anymore. Nobody laughed. At the center of the chamber, the High Chancellor looked toward the massive hologram of Vorlix Prime. Human fleets still surrounded the planet. Waiting. Watching. The Chancellor finally broke the silence. Has Earth responded to our peace request? A communication officer nodded nervously. Yes, Chancellor. And the officer swallowed hard. They will attend. Murmurs spread through the chamber immediately. Humanity was actually coming. For many species, that idea alone was terrifying. Meanwhile, on Vorlix Prime, chaos filled the streets. The mighty empire that once ruled through fear now looked broken. Military factories were silent. Defense towers had no power. Citizens rushed through crowded cities, trying to escape a war that was already over. Inside the Imperial Palace, Supreme Warlord Karvek sat alone in darkness. The powerful ruler looked older now. Smaller. Defeated. One of his remaining officers entered carefully. My lord, the humans are requesting your surrender. Karvek laughed bitterly. Surrender? We already lost. The officer stayed silent. Karvek slowly looked out the giant window toward the sky. Human ships floated everywhere. Silent. Motionless. Like predators waiting patiently. Karvek clenched his jaw. Why haven't they destroyed us yet? He whispered. The officer answered honestly. I don't think humans want revenge anymore. Karvek looked confused by that answer. He remembered the old stories told by conquered worlds. Every empire claimed power. Every empire claimed honor. But in the end, all of them wanted more territory, more control, more fear. Yet humans seemed different. That difference frightened him most of all. Far above the planet, aboard the Nightfall, Captain Elias Ward stood inside the war room. Large holograms covered the walls around him. Human commanders discussed final operations quietly. Admiral Sophia Hale appeared through another transmission. "The council meeting begins in 1 hour," she informed him. Elias nodded once. "And the Vorlax surrender?" Sophia looked down briefly. Karvek agreed. No celebration followed the news. No cheering. Only silence. A younger officer finally spoke. "Sir, after everything they did, shouldn't we finish this?" Several officers looked toward Elias carefully. The captain remained quiet for several seconds. Then he slowly turned toward them. "When Earth was attacked," he said calmly, "what did the galaxy expect us to become?" Nobody answered. "Monsters," Elias continued. "Conquerors." His eyes moved across the room. "If humanity becomes that, then the galaxy was right to fear us." The room became completely silent. Finally, Sophia spoke softly. "That's why you offered peace." Elias nodded. "We fight to protect home, not to rule others." Far away, inside the Galactic Council chamber, fear grew stronger every minute. Security forces filled every hallway. Emergency ships waited outside the station. Some senators even prepared escape routes, because nobody truly knew what humanity would do next. Then the chamber doors slowly opened. Human representatives entered. Instant silence spread across the room. Admiral Sophia Hale walked to the front. Captain Elias Ward followed beside her. Behind them came several human officers dressed in simple black uniforms. No medals, no decorations, no signs of pride. That calmness disturbed the council more than anger ever could. The High Chancellor stood carefully. "On behalf of the Galactic Council, we welcome Earth." Sophia gave a small nod. "We are here to end the war." Relief spread across the chamber instantly, but did not last long. An angry senator suddenly stood up. "You destroyed an empire in 6 days," he shouted. "How can the galaxy ever trust humanity again?" Tension filled the room immediately. Security guards moved nervously, but Elias answered calmly. "The same way humanity trusted the galaxy before Earth was attacked." The senator fell silent. Another council member stood slowly. An elderly female diplomat from one of the oldest races. "Why hide your true strength for so long?" she asked quietly. Sophia answered this time. "Because power changes people." She looked around the chamber carefully. Human history is filled with wars. We learned long ago that the most dangerous species in the galaxy was ourselves. Nobody spoke after that. Then Oryx slowly stood from his seat. The ancient senator looked directly at the humans. "The Ash Wars nearly destroyed civilization," he said softly. "Yet humanity buried those weapons instead of ruling the galaxy." He lowered his head respectfully. "Perhaps we judge your species unfairly." For the first time, the tension inside the chamber eased slightly. Then the High Chancellor asked the question every species feared most. "What does Earth demand?" The room became completely silent again. Elias stepped forward slowly. He looked at the hologram of the damaged Jupiter colonies floating above the chamber. Burned stations, dead civilians, broken homes. When he finally spoke, his voice carried quiet pain. "Earth demands only one thing." Every senator listened carefully. "No species will ever attack humanity again." Confused whispers spread instantly. "That's all. No territory, no tribute, no punishment." The humans shook their heads. Sophia answered firmly. "We do not want your worlds. We want peace." Many senators could hardly believe it. Humanity had the power to rule the galaxy, yet they were walking away from victory. The realization shocked everyone. At that moment, Karvek himself entered the chamber under heavy guard. The defeated warlord looked broken. His proud armor was damaged. His face filled with exhaustion. He stared directly at Elias. "You could have destroyed us," Karvek admitted quietly. "Yes," Elias answered. "Then why didn't you?" Elias looked toward the stars beyond the chamber windows. because deep down, he remembered something every human soldier understood. War never truly ended when the enemy died. The war ended when someone chose to stop fighting. Finally, Elias answered softly, because someone has to remember mercy. Silence filled the entire Galactic Council. And in that moment, the galaxy finally understood why humanity was truly dangerous. Not because humans loved war, but because they hated it enough to become unstoppable when forced into it. The war officially ended 3 days later. Across the galaxy, billions watched the historic moment live. Inside the Galactic Council chamber, Supreme Warlord Karvek signed the surrender treaty with shaking hands. The mighty Vorlax Empire was finished. Not destroyed, not erased, simply defeated. And that difference changed everything. After the signing ceremony ended, the council expected celebration from humanity. But there was none. Human officers quietly left the chamber without speeches or victory parades. Their fleets began pulling away from Vorlix Prime almost immediately. That decision shocked the galaxy more than the war itself. The humans were actually leaving. No occupation, no demands for resources, no conquest, just silence. Inside the council chamber, confused senators whispered to each other. A young diplomat finally spoke aloud. They won. Why walk away now? Auric, the ancient senator, watched the human ships disappear from the hologram. Because humans understand something most empires never learn, he said quietly. The diplomat frowned. What? Auric answered softly. The difference between victory and revenge. Far away, aboard the human flagship Nightfall, Captain Elias Ward stood alone in the observation hall again. The stars moved peacefully outside the giant window. For the first time in days, the ship was quiet. No alarms, no battle reports, no death. A door opened behind him. Admiral Sophia Hale entered slowly. The fleets are returning home, she informed him. Elias nodded once. And the council? They're terrified of us. A bitter smile crossed Elias's face. They should be terrified of war. Sophia stepped beside him near the window. Below them, dozens of damaged human ships traveled through space. Some carried wounded soldiers. Others carried the dead. Even victory had a cost. Sophia's voice became softer. 12,000 civilians at Jupiter. 3,000 military losses. Elias closed his eyes briefly. Every number felt heavy. Humanity had won, but families still mourned across Earth. Children still waited for parents who would never come home. That pain never disappeared. It never gets easier, Sophia whispered. Elias slowly shook his head. It shouldn't. Back on Earth, crowds filled the streets as human fleets returned home. But unlike most galactic empires, the celebrations felt quiet. People waved flags. Families cried while hugging returning soldiers. Memorial walls displayed the names of the dead. Humanity understood something many alien races did not. War was not entertainment. War was survival. At the rebuilt Jupiter colonies, workers repaired damaged stations day and night. Among the floating construction platforms, children once again played near observation windows. Life slowly returned. Captain Elias visited the colonies personally several days later. No cameras followed him. No speeches waited for him. He simply walked through the damaged stations silently. At one memorial wall, he stopped beside a little girl holding flowers. She looked up at him carefully. "Are you the man who stopped the bad people?" she asked. Elias looked at the names carved into the wall. "I helped," he answered quietly. The little girl placed flowers beneath one of the names. "My father said humans protect each other." Elias felt something painful inside his chest, because that was the real reason humanity became dangerous. Not hatred, love. Humans fought hardest for the people beside them. The little girl looked toward the stars outside the station window. Will they come back someday? Elias followed her gaze. Far beyond the stars, the galaxy still watched humanity nervously, still feared them, still remembered what happened to the Vorlax Empire. But Elias knew something else. Fear alone could not protect peace forever. Finally, he answered gently, "No." Then after a small pause, he added, "And if they do, we'll be ready." Meanwhile, across the galaxy, humanity's reputation became almost legendary. Pirates abandoned routes near human systems. Slave empires quietly shut down operations near Earth territory. Even powerful military races changed how they spoke to human diplomats. The phrase, "do not wake humanity," spread across hundreds of worlds. But something unexpected also began happening. Human ships started appearing in damaged systems across the galaxy. Not as conquerors, as helpers. Human engineers rebuilt ruined colonies. Human doctors treated alien civilians injured during the war. Human cargo fleets delivered food to starving planets, including former Vorlax worlds. This confused many species deeply. How can the same race be both terrifying and kind? One senator asked during a council meeting. Nobody answered at first. Then Oryx slowly stood again. The old senator looked older now, tired, but there was respect in his eyes when he spoke about humanity. Because humans feel deeply, he explained quietly. They love deeply. They grieve deeply. And when something threatens what they love, he looked toward the hologram of Earth. They become unstoppable. Silence filled the chamber once more. But this time, it was not silence born from fear alone. It was understanding. Months later, peace slowly returned to the galaxy. Trade routes reopened. Worlds rebuilt. The fear remained, but so did something new. Respect. On Earth, life continued normally again. Cities filled with lights. Children returned to schools. Families watched stars peacefully from their homes. And deep beneath Earth's oceans, the ancient Titan fleet rested once more inside hidden chambers. Massive warships powered down slowly in darkness. Cold AI voices echoed through the silent docks. Combat protocols suspended. Defense systems entering standby, awaiting future activation. Giant metal doors slowly closed over the sleeping fleet. Humanity hoped they would never open again. But just before the final doors sealed completely, one final message echoed through the underground base. A simple warning sent across every hidden defense network on Earth. If humanity is threatened, the lights dimmed. Humanity will answer. Then darkness returned. And somewhere far beyond Earth, deep in the silent corners of the galaxy, no species ever forgot those words again.